Good evening, everyone. My name is Kingsley Enonjang. I'm the current president of Shesa-America, and I bring you greetings from Wake Forest, North Carolina. 2020 has been a really challenging year, from the pandemic that hit the world um, to contested elections, and the fact that a lot of us have lost loved ones. Some of us have lost our jobs. Some of us are forced to work from home and take care of kids who are going to school from home. You know, all those things have made the year a really, really challenging year. But slowly, we're starting to pick up. Um, the management in the country has changed hands, and we're hoping that things will normalize with a new management and a more urgent focus on the pandemic that's affecting this country very, very badly. Also, the vaccines are here, and from the data so far, they look very promising. Hopefully, those two will help to alleviate the thousand deaths a day that this country is still facing. So 2021 is looking up, and we're keeping a positive attitude towards it, and hoping that everything would be everything would be fine um, by possibly maybe the end of 2021. And when I sit down and reflect on this pandemic so far, it kind of reminds me of the journey that our organization has taken. At the beginning, there was a lot of enthusiasm. Much credit goes to the pioneer senior Michels who originated Shesa-America and built the foundation for it. And they carried with it a lot of enthusiasm. And for many years, you know, Shesa-America was a melting pot for all Shesans and all Shesans here in America, both here in Canada. And it was booming with vibrancy. But along the years, that all that energy got dissipated, and we lost some of that vigor. And for a while there, we were trying to find ourselves. But slowly, we're crawling out of that difficult time. We're starting to find our footing again. Um, we're back. We're back in terms of an organization that's reflective of who we are. We're back in terms of participation from across the country, and we're back in terms of recognition. A lot of people now want to associate themselves with Shesa-America. So yes, the organization is looking more forcefully towards a reemergence into a much stronger organization. And as I ponder over the reemergence, one thing that keeps me up at night is trying to figure out what exactly are we supposed to be doing as an organization? What is it? What is our purpose as an organization? And after a time of reflection and talking to a lot of Shesans, many ideas have come through. Many ideas have come through, and right now we're trying to zero in on an idea that would be all-encompassing, an idea that would bring all Shesans under one banner, so that when we talk about that idea, all Shesans can recognize themselves into it. You see, I grew up in a small town called Manfe. I went to a small school called the Beko School. And for my first 5 years of primary school, I never heard of a school called Sacred Heart. It wasn't until my parents moved to Edea. My mom was a teacher. It wasn't until then I moved into a new environment, met new people, made new friends, started speaking a new language. I met my cousin who was hell bent on going to Sacred Heart. In those days, you had to pick your school when you were about to take the common entrance. He's the one who advised me on picking Sacred Heart. And I went to the interview. I remember my first day in Bamenda. We drove in from Station Hill, drove down to Ndamkong Street, went in, settled. And 2 hours later, SDF was launched on the streets. We know that story, and we know what happened that day. The next day, we went to school. We sat down for the interview, and that was when I met Moliki for the first time, Mr. Forby. And he was very helpful, very gracious, and I remember him because he was really kind to me. When I left the school smiling, hoping that I'll get a chance to study in this environment. And a few months later, I got the news that I had been accepted. And in September of that year, we drove back to Bamenda for a second time. This time, we came to stay. And while I wasn't quite sure what I was getting myself into, I was excited about it. Because I was excited to see new faces, new friends, new peers with whom we're going to start a new journey. I remember that night we went for hot chocolate at the refectory. And after that, we went for a movie. And it was my first time in the library. I walked into the library. I stopped by the door, and I was just in awe. I'd never seen a hall that big with that many books, and it just fascinated me. Even though I sat there and watched Indiana Jones that first day, all I could think about were those books that were behind me and how amazing my journey so far had been. And throughout the years, there were many other wow moments. First time I took the stage to sing, first time I got selected into the choir, even the first time I heard Awake from Your Slumber in the chapel. That was an amazing experience. And the first time I played tennis, I held a racket. First time I played forward in my house team and scored 2 goals. So many first times. First time I played volleyball and found my niche there. First time I went to a quiz as a representative for my house. So many first times. And throughout the years, those 101 kids with whom I started from 1, they became my brothers. They were the ones I debated with, the ones I played with, the ones I fought with, the ones we fought over food with, over sauce with. And every step of the way, they were there. And when we were together, it didn't matter if your father was a farmer or your father was a parliamentarian. It didn't matter if your father was a minister or your father was a minister in church. We were all kids, and in front of that board, in front of that class, we were all equal. And that is what brotherhood was to me at the time. And that stayed with me through my years in Sacred Heart, through my 7 years in Sacred Heart, and through my 3 years at the University of Buea, and on to the US. And that has stayed with me. That brotherhood has kept me going because it's from there that I draw my inspiration. It is from there that everything that I am today I can credit that brotherhood for it. You see, because what was important about Sacred Heart wasn't the teachers. We didn't have good teachers. It was the environment. It was the fact that we were able to come together under one banner, just the space that was created for us to be able to do whatever we wanted. That is what made the difference for me. Unfortunately, that space was created just for 102 kids in 1990, of whom I was among. And as the years went by, just a privileged few are allowed to get that, to, to live within that space and get that experience and develop that kind of relationship that I developed over the years. And that, I think, is the only drawback that I saw with Sacred Heart, that just a selected few are able to do that. We're in a position where knowledge has to get passed down. We owe it to ourselves to pass down the knowledge that we have learned to the next generation, because we expect them to be better. And it's no longer okay to just pass down that knowledge to a few, to 100 every year. We have to find a place within our society where we can pass down this knowledge without the confines of a school, without having to select a few people. We need to create that space where people can come with different ideas and debate and vie for the best idea. So that's where I think Shesa can make a difference. We need to stop. It's past time for us to be living under a banner of what we did when we were boys. It's time for us to create a space where we can be recognized for. It's time for us to create an environment where people can recognize the hand of Shesa within the community in which we are. That's why for years I've been advocating for us to build a hub right there in Mancong, where we spent, the better part of our adolescent years. I see a future where Shesa as an organization has a hand in molding and shaping the futures of young people, regardless of where they went to school, regardless of how much money they have in their bank account, regardless of what last name they carry. I see a future where Shesa is playing a part in bringing ideas together, bringing people together to ponder over difficult questions and finding the best answers for it. Just creating that space for people to be able to do that. There are many of us who have a lot to give back. There are many of us who have a lot to say, a lot to impart on our community, but don't have the space for it. We don't have the infrastructure to be able to do that. I see my friend Tinsley giving a class on entertainment education. I see entrepreneurs, I see doctors trying to educate people about heart disease, about diabetes, but never having that space to be able to bring just regular people, just normal people. I see entrepreneurs here who want to impart that same energy, that same knowledge that they learned, that they paid so much money for to understand. They want to impart that same knowledge on young people who are starting off, young people who have ideas, but they don't have that space. That's why I advocate for us to create that space for them. When I look at the whole of Northwest and Southwest, Bamenda is the biggest city with the biggest population. and we are the biggest school with the biggest name in that city. So by far, we are the most influential organization, whether we accept the responsibility or not. But we are only an influential organization because of the things we did when we were boys. We have to get past that. We have to get to a point where we're an influential organization because of the things we do for the community right now. We need to create a space where people and ideas can be shared. We need to build a hub where we can have a library where kids can come in and feel that same wow that I felt when I walked into the Sacred Heart Library for the first time. We need to create a hub where we have these same instruments that we used in church and where kids can come and practice. We need to create a hub that can have a basketball court, that can have a yard where we can do medical missions with all the doctors that we have. We need to create a hub where we can put that alumni office that we've been wanting to put, so that it can monitor what's going on campus and see where we can put the greatest emphasis to change the trajectory of the kids that are coming out of that school. You see, when I look at Sacred Heart, I can understand why Shesa is not a part of what they're doing at Sacred Heart. We can complain all we want, but at the end of the day, they're still going to get their 1,000 kids paying 500,000 francs a year to go to that college. They don't need to put up a new toilet for that. They don't need to put up a new computer lab for that. They're still going to get those people. So whatever we're advocating for is not aligning with what they have for the school. So we need to show them, we need to show the school that we can change communities. We can change communities with the things that we're doing so that they can align with us instead of us trying to align with them. Because if your actions have results out in the community, people will seek you out and you wouldn't have to seek them out. So I'm looking for us, all all Shesans, to be on board with this idea of a hub where we can put, a library, we can put, a musical hall, we can put conference rooms, we can even put a guest house, we can put, whatever ideas you can come up with, just so we can create that space where if you're coming in and you want to give a class on economics, you have that space. If you're coming in and you want to do a health fair, you have that space. If entrepreneurs from within the city want to come in and use it to do their research, they have that space. So that we can be that center where ideas are exchanged, where kids go to find refuge for what's going on around the rest of the world. That's the journey I wanted us to start on. And that's where I want us to define ourselves as that organization that took part in changing the trajectory of a lot of lives because of what they offered to the community. And I hope and pray that you're all going to join me on that journey. Thank you very much. Have a good night and happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Thank you.